All right, the Reds, it is the Spion Kop. It is Pete Bolster. I've got Christos Nicolau with me, a.k.a. the real Greek Scouser, not that fake one who's gone. Where has he gone? Has he gone to Roma or something like that?
Roma, hasn't he?
He's not even playing. He should be back though, shouldn't he? We'll get him on the podcast maybe. But anyway, for today, we have got the Champions League. We're going to speak about this week, all the madness that's happened, because for me, it has been a bit of a mad week. Big score lines. It's been a very relaxing week for us. On the other hand, we'll speak about the Fabrizio Romano update, if that's what you can call it. It is on Arne Slot, so we'll delve more into that. We will then talk about the press conference and what that entails in the sense of who's injured, who's not, who's coming back. Isak seems a bit of a name there where you're thinking, oh, actually, can he do something this season? And then we're going to look into the big one, the big game of the weekend, which is not Arsenal versus Tottenham, despite what Sky keep telling everybody. It is the Forest versus Liverpool game, because the biggest show in town is always Liverpool. It's never anyone else, is it? But right now, let's get on with this show, Christos, because right now, this is the biggest show in town, because we're 48 hours away from playing Nottingham Forest. But in the first instance, I just want to talk about how relaxing this week has been, because for me, I didn't want it to be this relaxing. I just wanted to watch the Reds play. I get bored when Liverpool don't play. So when they talk about being... or they complain about playing every 3 days, I'm like, that's great. I want to play. I want to watch. I want to watch the Reds. I want to see us in action. I want to see what it's all about. But then I watch the Champions League unfold. We've seen mad results. We've seen PSG go 2 goals down. They've done fantastic. They've come back. We've seen Juventus go 2-1 up and then get smashed, obliterated by Galatasaray. 5-2. We've seen Atletico Madrid concede many goals again. We've seen Bodo Glimt show the Champions League what it's all about, and what a unit can do, no matter how small of a team you can do or you can be. So we're after the fact, in hindsight, I'm like, I'm glad that was none of our business.
Absolutely, Pete. In a way, it's a reward for us doing so well in the Champions League group stages. I think, especially at the end of the season. I know you say you won the games to be coming up, but especially with the thin squad we've got at the moment, I think it's a blessing in disguise.
100%, because you look at that thin squad. We'll speak later about injuries to players when they're coming back and so on. It just stretches the squad that little bit further. You say about it being a reward, it looked like a punishment for these teams this week.
It was absolutely a punishment, because you see all these quality teams, they're having to play 90 minutes of absolute maddened football. You've got Galatasaray winning Juventus 5-2. Juventus are probably thinking, what the hell has just happened? You've got Atletico Madrid being 2-0 up, ending up drawing the game 3-3. Bodo Glimt winning the game. So, in a way, I'm glad we haven't got to play any of them games, and we can just focus on the league for now, and then we can think about the Champions League when it comes to it.
That punishment continues next week as well, but we'll talk about this week. First of all, so we look at Galatasaray. What first jumped out at me with Juventus? They've gone 2-1 up. I think, did they go a goal down first? I can't remember now. I think they went a goal down. They come back. Cooper Minus is bagged 2 goals. The second one in particular was a real cracker. But then it was like lackadaisical. There was some shocking, very casual defending going on. Juventus like to flood that midfield with a million midfielders. That's the way the manager sets up. But with that casual play, and if the midfield doesn't work, it's then very easy to get a Juventus. Galatasaray are very direct, and they were very up for it. Leroy Sané, they've got Victor Osimhen, they've got some real quality players. There's the Brazilian midfielder that got the first goal. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it's Sada or something like that. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Maybe I'm butchering it, Christos. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't know who I am, so what's he going to do about it? But they were very on top of Juventus, and all of a sudden, Juventus are leaving Galatasaray 5-2 down. And I know people will point at the red card, but for me, it could have been many, many more goals, and they're lucky that it's only a 3-goal deficit. They've got to then try and turn it around. So how that impacts their league season on the weekend is exactly why it benefits us, that no matter what happens in the Champions League this week, we don't have to worry about our league game, because it won't impact them, because we have got a clear week, like we spoke about before. So I just don't know why Juventus walked into that game thinking this is going to be a walk in the park, because that's what it looked like. And that's exactly what transpired.
I think absolutely, it's like you said. I think in a way Juventus have underestimated Galatasaray, especially when you say the lackadaisical. If you look back, the goals, 2 or 3 of the goals come from Juventus playing passes at the back, Osimhen coming up, pressing them, winning the ball, and then before you know it, it's a goal for Galatasaray. So I think that's one of the things that happens in these Champions League games. A lot of the big teams come into it thinking we're through already, but Galatasaray have just made a point to the whole of the world that they're a really serious outfit.
Absolutely. If you look at now Galatasaray, you'd have to put them through. You'd think at this stage, you never know. You really never know. And then you got to remember as well that away goals don't count. Yeah. So if Juventus was to win 3-0, it means that they're not necessarily through. That would take them to extra time. So they have to win by 4 clear goals. That seems unrealistic to me. I think Galatasaray might have 1 foot into the next round. But Atletico, if you be honest, Club Brugge are not the greatest of sides. What does that say about Atletico? Atletico Madrid, I've got away there and it's 3-3. You'd have to think now, going into the next round, they're probably the most likely outfit. So Liverpool's 2 potential fixtures, as of recording today, you'd say it's either Atletico Madrid or Galatasaray. When I think back earlier in the season, Liverpool battered Atletico when we went 2-0 up. And it looked like it was going to be many more. But Atletico then showed that European experience. They kept hold of the ball. They probed Liverpool and eventually got the goals. We got the winner in the end. Galatasaray beat us away 1-0. I wasn't that impressed, like I said earlier in the show that night. But what I want to know from you is, Christos, what have you seen this week? Is there a difference between those 2 sides when they've played Liverpool early in the season? Does it matter because they were only one-off games and now it would be a 2-legged game? And who would you prefer?
Well, I think before the Champions League games, Peter, I was definitely going for either Galatasaray or Juve. But after watching what unfolded, I'm not sure that I actually want Galatasaray. I think Atletico Madrid looked a lot more fragile. They looked a lot more easy to get to. And I don't even know if I want a second game against Galatasaray.
The first leg's away, you know. So what historically all clubs and all supporters, and especially Liverpool fans, because we've always got Anfield in the second leg, or like we want Anfield to be in the second leg, to have that comeback moment, or if that security, that if something goes wrong in the first leg, you bring them back to Anfield. But if you put it on the flip side now, and the fact that away goals are not a thing anymore, if you're Galatasaray, don't you want that first game to be at home? Because if you want to impose the crowd on your opponents, you want the tie to be level. Now, the only time the tie can be guaranteed to be level is at kick-off in the first leg. So is it a disadvantage for us to go away there in the first leg? Or is it actually an advantage? Because we assume historically, you're like, I want them away so we can bring them back to Anfield. But actually, when you think about it a little bit deeper, it's quite a dangerous place going there, isn't it, in the first leg?
I think, yeah, it depends what happens in the first leg. I think if you go there and you lose the game 1-0, 2-0, then it's definitely a disadvantage. But I think with Liverpool, we've always got the Anfield factor coming into it. So we've always got that belief that even if we go 1, 2, or even 3 goals down, the Anfield crowd can lift the players up, we can put a massive performance on, and we can turn it around, especially in the Champions League.
I always believe that to be the case, but that's not so much my point. My point is that, is it an advantage to them at the time of kickoff? So, for example, if we played at Anfield first and we were 2-0 up going into that second leg, those Galatasaray fans wouldn't be as loud, they wouldn't be as intimidating because they're a bit like, oh God, we're already out probably. Whereas if they're home first, which they would be home if we are drawing against them, it starts 0-0 and that gets the crowd going. So I'm not talking about how Liverpool play that night. I'm just meaning they're more rallied up. It's like, it sees the moment type of thing. We're home, we've got to attack Liverpool. This is our opportunity. So it's more like, is it more advantage to them than it is to us when we think about historically, normally you'd want the team away?
Well, if you put it that way, yeah, potentially, Pete, because in a way they're starting with a clean slate, aren't they? And they know they can beat Liverpool, even though it wasn't a great performance from Liverpool. That's surely going to give some confidence to the Galatasaray players that they can beat us and use the crowd against us. So if you put it that way, yeah, it is advantage, yeah.
Atletico Madrid as well. They are historically a difficult opponent. Diego Simeone. Do you know, I've done that now 3 or 4 times in the last couple of days on various shows. I can't say Diego. He's only been the manager for about 100 years at Atletico Madrid. He is historically a low block manager, isn't he? Against a team like Liverpool, he's going to come disrupt. He's going to be very horrible to beat. It's not a nice fixture. No one really wants to play Atletico Madrid. However, is that just a name? Are Atletico Madrid just a name this season because they've conceded 18 goals in the Champions League so far, which is, to me, it's ridiculous. It's far too many. They look very open. They got blitzed by us in the first part of the game. They got blitzed by Arsenal. They've conceded 3 away to Club Brugge. So when round and about, you're just thinking, it's a bit like what you said. Is it more dangerous playing Galatasaray or is it Atletico Madrid? Because people would say, I don't want to play Atletico Madrid, but are they there for the taking?
I think, yeah, they're definitely there for the taking piece. I think they don't look like a defensive team like in the past. They've struggled, as you said, they're conceding loads and loads of goals. Their league form's not the best. They've had a good result in the Copa del Rey, but I think the form goes out the window in the Cup. And I think out of the two, I'd definitely be looking at Atletico Madrid as the weaker animal to go and kill.
We have to be confident either way. So I'm sure we will be at the point of the time we play them, but we'll talk about that further in the future, Christos. I just want to talk a little bit about Bodo Glimt. I'm not having a good show here, am I, Christos? Bodo Glimt, because I thought that they'd been so impressive and they've become this team now. They've got this like reputation of being giant killers. And the more you look into it and the more you realise over the last couple of seasons, this is not out of the blue, because they got to the Europa League semi-final last season, beaten by Spurs. The season before, they battered Inter Milan 6-1. I think that was in the Conference League. So they're there. They've beaten Manchester City earlier in the season. They are a team that, like, they're like a pack of wolves, aren't they? The way they hunt in packs, the way they're so, like, together as a team. They're not a team that I would want to be facing. I know Liverpool can't face them in the next round, but I'm just talking about generally anyone in the Champions League. I just wouldn't want to be facing them right now.
Yeah, definitely. It just shows you, Peter, what can happen when a team comes together. They have a common belief and they just go for it in games. The fans are a massive sort of pushing force for them. And I think their stadium is very unique. The pitch conditions, density, and they remind me a little bit of Atalanta, the way they've come into it. Not so much in the style of play, but sort of a dark horse of the Champions League. And I think anything can happen with these teams, especially with the amount of belief they've got, the amount of form they've been on. And I think their manager's doing wonders for them.
He's done brilliant. They have a plastic pitch as well. When you talk about the pitch conditions, the way the ball bounces, it's completely different. When you play an Astro rather than grass, it's completely different. We coached the team over the last few years, Christos, where, I mean, people don't know this, we coached the team and they were a very decent side, but for some reason in the summer, we were playing in a summer league and they just wasn't the same side. They got beat nearly every game. A few weeks later, they played the same team and whacked them 6 or 7-0. And that's how dangerous it can be. Historically, anyone who's watching it will know that Luton had a plastic pitch many, many years ago, and so on. And good footballing sides, or any football sides, will actually find it difficult to go there. Manchester City did find it difficult a few weeks ago, so much so that they apologised to the fans afterwards and paid their fare to Norway and the accommodation and so on.
I thought that was unnecessary. Didn't you think that?
Did you think that? Could tell me why?
I don't know. It's like you're saying basically Bodo Glimt are not good enough as a team. You're disrespecting Bodo Glimt as an establishment, really. I think you take it on the chin and you accept defeat. Saying, oh, sorry to the fans, it's just basically saying we didn't turn up instead of giving credit where it's due.
I thought it was incredibly disrespectful as well. So when I first looked at it, I thought, that's a nice gesture. But then when I thought about it from the Bodo Glimt side, I thought, well, that is disrespectful. Manchester City's potential opponents, one of them is Bodo Glimt. So it might come back to haunt them, because if I was Bodo Glimt, I'd be waiting for them and I'd be thinking, yeah, you'll have to put your hand back in your pocket. Press conference, sorry, not the press conference, the Fabrizio Romano update we'll talk about now is what I see. I think it was last night it came out, and it was when you see an update and you see Arne Slot's name, you see Liverpool, you're like, oh. So I'll read it to you, Christos. So it says Fabrizio Romano's latest on Arne Slot job at Liverpool beyond this season. If Liverpool are not in the Champions League next season, I think this could bring Liverpool into an important review in the summer. Now, the full focus is on the pitch. Let's see if Liverpool are in the UEFA Champions League next season or not. And that is going to be one of the factors to decide on Arne Slot. I expect the club at the end of the season to meet owners and the board all together to decide what they want to do. At the moment, they've always been backing Arne Slot, so always showing the trust, but then at the end of the season, there will be an internal review. I'm not sure that says anything. So like I've looked at that and I'm like, whoa, and sometimes you panic read, so you read the end part and you skip the middle part, and the next minute you've read it 8 times. And is that just telling us something that we already know anyway, that if a manager doesn't qualify for the Champions League this season, isn't their job always in danger? And is it really telling us anything?
I think he's just going around in circles saying, if Liverpool don't do this, this will happen. They're going to have discussions, but isn't that what a board's supposed to do with the manager at the end of the season? They're supposed to sit down and see what the future brings. They're supposed to reflect on the season and see where they go forward. I think Fabrizio Romano's just trying to get clicks. I think it's quite obvious that Liverpool trust Arne Slot. I think the roundtable interview they had together basically establishes the trust they've had. I think they've tried to silence the noise, and I think, especially with that roundtable discussion, what they're saying to Liverpool fans is, he's our man regardless. I don't think they would have done that, because even when that discussion happened, it was quite obvious that Liverpool might not get Champions League.
I totally agree. That's what I perceived from the roundtable. But since that moment, Richard Hughes looks like he might be on his way out of the club. So they were holding hands at the roundtable, and it did look like a togetherness, which then it sort of defeats the whole objective. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't think Fabrizio Romano is really saying anything here, and I think Fabrizio Romano is obviously a very credible source. If someone like him comes out and says something, or David Ornstein says something or whatever, but I think right now we just put this one in the bin, doesn't it? Because there's nothing really to talk about. But the press conference, Arne Slot spoke about togetherness in the sense of, well, I've just surmised togetherness. He said about Liverpool have only lost twice in the last 19 games. Both of those games were in the last minute. The last one, the last defeat, me and you were together, weren't we, inside Anfield, and it wasn't a very nice time. But he said in both of those games, Liverpool didn't deserve to lose. He's referring to Manchester City and he's referring to Bournemouth away. Now, we spoke about Bodo Glimt earlier and how important it is to have belief and how important it is to have togetherness. What I got from this press conference, and there wasn't much to get from it, was that he's telling these Liverpool players a story here. And that story is that you've lost 2 in 19, and even in those 2 games, you didn't deserve to lose. And it does seem to have some green shoots in what's going on and what we expect moving forward at Liverpool now.
Yeah, definitely. I think Arne Slot has to install belief in this squad. I think maybe that's one of the things we've lacked, especially at the very the first part of the season, really. And I think the football's improved, the link-up play's improved, as he's just indicated, the results are improving. I think all we're missing, really, is a bit of belief. And I'm a big believer of luck in football. Sometimes you just need that bit of luck, a goal to go off the crossbar and in instead of going out. a little deflection to go in. Some of them little sort of margins that will push us towards our end goals, really.
In particular, the City game, there was moments where we could have put them to bed. And even after they got I think they went 2-1 up, there was a moment where McAllister smashed one and it was a great save. If that would have went in, that's the type of look that you're referring to, isn't it?
Definitely.
The injury situation, there isn't much to say regarding Jeremy Frimpong, although he's going to be back, not this weekend, he's going to be back the week after against West Ham, which I find really refreshing because initially when he went down, it looked really like a serious injury. So the fact that it's only been a matter of weeks rather than months, for me, is a breath of fresh air. Joe Gomez comes in this weekend. He's fit to play. He obviously not telling us who's starting, but he's fit to play. And the big one is Alexander Isak. So he's now running with shoes, which is fantastic because I don't know what the alternative was. I'm just glad that he's walking with shoes. Sorry, running with shoes. So the potential date for his return is the end of March, which means he could play a significant part in this season. The only problem is that it takes a little bit of time getting up to his rhythm, but he is training, he is doing things in the gym, like Arne Slot said. Can he still make a difference this season?
Definitely. I don't think we've seen the player we've bought yet from Newcastle. I think he struggled to get into the form he wanted. I think he scored a goal and he got injured, didn't he? So I think that went against them. And I think we've got so much more to see from Alexander Isak. I think he's an excellent footballer. I think he's an excellent striker. And I think, especially with the thin squad we've got at the moment, we can use anyone we can get, really, isn't it?
We certainly need him banging in goals up front and just sometimes just an extra body, like you've just referred to. I actually think he can play a part. Liverpool just need to stick around in those cup competitions. And obviously we still need to be qualifying for the Champions League, don't we? Just so you know, just to go back a moment when we talk about the Fabrizio Romano updates, I'm pretty confident that Liverpool do qualify for the Champions League this season. In particular because there's 5 teams, so I just can't envisage it happening. This weekend now, the big game is obviously Nottingham Forest. We've got Forest away. We've had a whole week's rest. We've referred to that already and how beneficial it is. I was on a show yesterday, Christos, and the topic of conversation was Nottingham Forest are going away in Europe to Fenerbahce, which is such a difficult place to go. In the Europa League, where their ownership will put so much importance on the Europa League, because in Europe, the Europa League is such a massive trophy. We have a Greek owner, a Forest, so he'll see that as a thing. Well, if we go and win this season, I've got to remember as well, Nottingham Forest were a really top side last season. They're not much different to they are this season. So the importance on that, I was thinking, benefits Liverpool. The fact that they have to play the actual fixture, and the fact that, like, if the tie is close, so if they got beat 2-1, if they drew 1-1, if they got a 1-0 win, the tie is still very much live. What's transpired is they've gone away, they've put a masterclass in, they've smashed them 3-0. It could have been more. I've watched the game thinking, oh God, this could have been 4 or 5. They've had about 26 shots to Fenerbahce's 6. They look so cohesive, they look calm and composed, they scored some good goals. What's the striker's name? Jesus? Is it Igor Jesus?
Igor Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, so he hasn't been great in the Premier League this season. He's only scored 2 in the Premier League, but in the Europa League, he's been fantastic. He's the top scorer. I think he's the top scorer in Forest's actual European history now, which is something because they've won 2 European Cups. But going into this game, I was thinking, they'll be tired. They're travelling home, this, that and the other. But they've just won 3-0. And now the tie for next week looks like it's pretty much dead and buried. So now the game against us holds even more importance, knowing that they're only 1 position above the relegation zone. It's a bit of a free hit for them, isn't it?
Definitely, Peter. But at the same time, I saw the lineup they put against Fenerbahce, and they played basically their best lineup they could have potentially put on. So in a way, that's a good thing for us. All them players, regardless of if they've won, they're all going to have heavy legs, aren't they? They're going to be tired. We've had a week off to rest, to think about what we can do against Forest. And I think I've seen a lot of people saying, Fenerbahce is just not at the standard, and the Premier League's better. Well, they're only 3 points behind Galatasaray in their league, so they're no mugs anyway at the same time. So that is quite a big achievement from Forest beating them 3-0. But at the same time, how much has that took out of them to do that?
I know, but I'm a believer though. What was so apparent for me was Vito Pereira's come in and he looks like a good guy. He was at Wolves. There was a big banner, points first, pints second, or whatever it was, because you guys are pint with the fans. And I think when someone comes into a football club and refreshes everybody, takes the shackles off them and says, "Come on, lads, you know what I mean? Let's have a laugh again," because we spoke about football needing to be fun. What do you play football for? When you're 7 years of age, 8 years of age, you play the game for basically for fun, don't you? You don't play it for money. Nottingham Forest look like they enjoyed themselves last night. They'll be on the way home and on that plane thinking, this is great. Got new manager, he's sound. I just think you don't feel as tired when you're happy, and you don't feel as tired when you win.
Yeah, well, definitely, because football is a mentality game, isn't it? Mentality plays a massive role into your performance. But at the same time, I think Liverpool have to go and get that win. But there's pressure on Forest as well, because they're only 3 points above the relegation zone. West Ham breathing down their necks with 3 points less. And they've just come into a bit of a form, so they've just narrowly lost to Chelsea, they've beat Tottenham, they've beat Burnley, they've drew with Man United. So West Ham are just starting to build this sort of form into the latter stages of the season. So Nottingham Forest, I've got massive pressure to come and perform and get some points out of Liverpool.
I think when a manager first comes in, though, I think they have less pressure. So, but they have that new manager bounce, and that new manager bounce gets them through the first few weeks, and that's really a thing. I mean, it's the fourth manager now, isn't it? I think we spoke on the show a couple of days ago, Christos. I just think he's already taken the pressure off, because he's won 3-0 away to Fenerbahce. So going into this fixture, if Liverpool win 1-0 or 2-1, and it's a narrow win and Forest to put a performance in, then they go and continue and finish the job against Fenerbahce. Their next league fixture then, that's when they say, well, we need to get a result. I think because I think there's less pressure on them. I do think that they'll fancy themselves to stay up regardless. And they know West Ham's next fixture as well is against Liverpool, which if they're looking at it, they'd fancy Liverpool to complete that job. So it sort of makes them level at where they kicked off from the week before, as long as the results go the way they want them to go. Not that they want to lose against Liverpool. I'm just saying, I just think there is less pressure.
Yeah.
So what I'd say is that the atmosphere as well. So I don't know if you remember last season, we played them on a Tuesday night, and it was absolutely so hostile. It was horrible. They were second in the league at the time, I think. And you never know, at the time, it was like, if they go and beat us, they may have some type of title charge. But Liverpool stood up, and we were very resilient that night. If you remember, Diogo Jota got the header. It was his first touch off the bench. I think Tsimikas took the corner. I'm always remembering that now because I'm looking at your Greek face. Which, it was a fantastic result. We didn't do enough to get the win that night. But what I'm sort of referring to really is how hostile it was and how hostile it might be on Sunday. Does it make a difference that it's a Sunday game rather than it being a Tuesday night? Because they don't like Liverpool fans, they really don't like it. If you go to Forest away, you'll hear some of the horrible anti-Scouse things and the vile, and they are disgusting. So I think they'd be right up for it.
I think the atmosphere is going to be massive for Forest and for Liverpool. I think we need to go there, try and ignore the noise, put a performance on, but at the same time, Forest are going to be relying on that hostile atmosphere. Another thing I've been thinking over the last few days is Arne Slot hasn't managed to beat Forest since he's joined Liverpool. So is that potentially something in his head? Is he going to try and do something mad? Is he going to look at the last games and try and do sort of like an interesting tactical tweak? So I think that's something that will be on Arne Slot's head, especially last season. He couldn't stop talking about it when he lost about from Forest. So I think that's another interesting sort of angle to look at it. Arne Slot will be dying to beat these now, won't he?
Arne Slot didn't stop talking about that game last season.
No.
But to be fair to him, we didn't lose many last season. So it's the only thing he could talk about. There's many defeats he can talk about, unfortunately, this season. One of them was at home to Nottingham Forest, and for me, that was like the worst performance of the season at Anfield, where they just took us apart. It was unacceptable in many ways. You are right. Will he do something? And will he see Nottingham Forest as a particular outfit where he's like, bloody hell, I've not beaten these? Maybe so, but because of the whole manager situation, if it was a manager that he kept coming up against, but to be fair to him, what does he do different? Because he has to do something different, because every time he faces him, there was a new manager. I think it was Sean Dyche's 4th game when he came to Anfield early in the season. Now he's facing Vito Pereira for the first time, although he has played against him last season for Wolves. So maybe he'll look at that blueprint.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's, regardless who the manager is, and I get your point, he is unlucky because every time he tries to figure them out, they're sacking a manager left, right and centre, aren't they? But at the same time, he's the Liverpool manager and he's got to find a way to beat them. I think you just have to look at the last couple of years, the strengths, their weaknesses, and you've got to put a plan up that's going to go against them. But I think we've got to sort of stick to what we do well. I don't think we need to change too much. I think we need to keep the same things going. And I think just do what we've been doing over the last few weeks.
I think he's a cool character, Arne Slot. I think everyone realises that, and he's very calm. But I think if you turned up now and told him he's 5-1 on aggregate down to Nottingham Forest, I think he'd absolutely be so pissed off, wouldn't he? If you think, wow, we're going to win 5-0 on Sunday. But we don't need to win 5-0 on Sunday. We need to win by any means necessary. So what I'm going to ask you now is what team you think is the team that should be playing on Sunday, and how does that best fit to beat Nottingham Forest? What are you doing, Christos? Assuming Alisson's in goal, he's your banker, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely going. Alisson in goal. Do you know what? I was really impressed with Jones at right back. I think he provided something that we've not really had since Frimpong's gone out, sort of an attacking outlet from the back. I know Kerkez also offers that, but I think there was something different offered by Jones. Konate, Van Dijk, and then Kerkez at the left back. I wouldn't go with Robertson. I think we're going to need the pace of Kerkez to combat the likes of your Hutchinsons. You've got your loads of pacey wingers. They love going out.
Morgan Gibbs-White as well.
Morgan Gibbs-White.
I'd have him at Liverpool, you know.
Would you?
I genuinely would. I mean, there's a whole conversation that you can have about the squad next season, but Liverpool need homegrown players. And at the moment, there's rumours Curtis Jones might leave the club in the summer. If you got rid of Joe Gomez, he's only got a year left on his deal. Does he want to go somewhere else? You've got to have lads who are homegrown, and he could be someone, not as a front three player, but when we had players like Divock Origi coming off the bench and Minamino, I was going to say Minamoto then, Minamino, he could be that type of footballer that comes off the bench and part of a 5 forwards, not the 3. You want your 3 main ones, but I think he's that good, and he does worry me for Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're a counter-attacking team. They love getting balls in the box, and I think that's going to be something they're going to play into. They love a long throw as well. Aina, their full-back, is sort of their specialist in that. So I think Liverpool sort of stick to the guns. We've had a massive problem, Pete, in the right-back position, and I think Jones maybe put a stake into that to be pivotal for the rest of the season. I know Gomez is back, but is he fit enough to start against Forest? I'm not sure. So yeah, I'd definitely go Jones, Kerkez, Konate, Van Dijk. I'd go Gravenberch and Soboslai in midfield. Wirtz just in front of them. And then I'd go with the front 3 of Gakpo, Ekitike and Salah, who had a brilliant performance last week.
He was brilliant, wasn't he? The problem I've got with that is that what Arne Slot normally does is, in these big games, and I think it is a big game on Sunday, he wants someone who he can really trust and rely on. And I think the player that he trusts mostly in the whole Liverpool side is Dom Szoboszlai. So I think he'll play at right back, which then takes something out of that midfield. McAllister did play well last week. He's not been the same player, but he has been playing much better in the last couple of games, I'd say. So I think that's the only one. But the other one is Christos, which no one's really mentioning. It's Ramadan. And 3 of the starting 11 that you've just mentioned there are all going to be experiencing the difficulty of Ramadan in the sense that spiritually it's going to be very rewarding for them, but let's just think about what they have to put the body through, and the lack of fluids and obviously food is going to be a big problem. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff, so it's the daytime. There is not going to be any breaks where you can break the fast. And we spoke about Forest tiring. That's 3 of the 10 outfield players, which is it's a big percentage. Did you see him trying to do the maths then? That wasn't work, was it? It's almost a third of the team, isn't it? So you can see Liverpool tiring as the game goes on. Mohamed Salah has notoriously been phenomenal in the sense that he stays on the pitch no matter what, and I can see that happening. But Konate previously has had to go off a couple of times at half time when it's been Ramadan in previous seasons, which does worry me. Then you're sort of thinking you probably shouldn't put Gomez right back, because you need Gomez then to be that security for coming in for Konate, possibly. And then Hugo Ekitike tires anyway, doesn't he? So that one is a real unknown, and I'm a little bit concerned then what I feel like we need an option off the bench for when that happens, because we obviously haven't got Isak, have we? So who you, as the game goes on, if what I'm saying is true, because we don't know, I've not seen Hugo Ekitike during Ramadan before. What do you think Arne Slot's like? What do you think he's going to do at that point? How's he going to problem solve this one?
I think there's not many possibilities there, Peace. I think Gakpo's done a job for us in the past as a striker, and I think he suits the striker position a lot, even though he prefers playing on the left. But I think he's just got that physical presence that can help him play that position. I think Chiesa, I don't think he's the solution, especially after the performance last week. I think that was his chance to sort of tell Arne Slot, this is who I am. You need to start giving me more minutes. So I think maybe, potentially put on Gakpo up front or Salah up front. I think then maybe the likes of your Rio and Gumoas can come in, especially after the goal he scored. I know it was...
it was a goal, I'm counting it.
It was a goal. Yeah.
So much so that I still think sometimes this week that we won 4-0, and when I see the 3-0 up, right, I'm like, I'm not having that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Ngumoa could be that sort of... That could help Arne Slot to move Gakpo in the middle or Salah in the middle, and then you've got Ngumoa on the left. Bates could come onto the left, and then you push, I don't know, McAllister in the number 10 position potentially. But it's actually a brilliant point. I never even thought about Ramadan. So that could potentially be something that could affect our performance levels, Peace. You're absolutely right there.
I think he's going to have a plan later in the game. So that last half an hour, I do think Joe Gomez starts on the bench for that potential replacement of Konate, because, like I said earlier on, he's had to come off in previous years. That gives you that security. I think he does play Dom Szoboszlai, because I just think that outlet, he comes in and he plays that inverted fullback as well. I think Arne Slot likes that, so he does that with Kerkez, so then that helps the midfield. What I do think would happen is, as much as I understand and respect what you're saying about Rio Ngumoa, I think he should get more minutes. We spoke about that in previous shows. By the way, all the knobheads who were giving me abuse online, watch what he did last week. I didn't say play him every game. I said play him for 10 fucking minutes. There's a bit of a difference, isn't there? So, can he come on and play 10 or 15 minutes? Of course he can. I just don't think that Arne Slot will do that. I think what he'll do is just change the formation as the game goes on. I think it'll go more of a 4-4-2 and 2 up front, where you'll see Wirtz connect with Salah, and I think you're right, Gakpo will go more centrally, but that's where you need your Curtis Jones then to come on in that last half an hour. Because the one thing Curtis Jones is good at is keeping hold of the ball. So if you've got tired players, it's better for the opposition to be chasing the ball than yourself. So I think his 2 subs are Gomez and Jones coming on. I think the team will pretty much pick itself, and I think they're your 2 options, because I just think you've got to have a plan B for what will unfold. But it is a full week rest afterwards, Christos, so it's sort of like you got to go for this, haven't you?
You definitely have to go for it, Peace. And I think you've made an excellent point there. If we go and put our strongest players on the pitch, We've got problems at right back. We've got problems in midfield. I think you're right, and we won't have a game changer off the bench. So I think you'd probably see Szoboszlai as a right back. Probably see Jones coming off the bench. And then I'm just hoping that our players can perform at the levels we expect them at, and that Ramadan is influential to them.
We say that in a negative way. It could be a positive way.
Yeah,
it's a very spiritual time for people undertaking it. So we don't ever want anyone to be saying anything negative about what could happen. I'm just talking about the actual logistics of it. Is it must win?
Definitely must win. I think the games are running out, Peter. We don't want them. And I know there's 10, 11 games left. We don't have to win every single game because we're on the top 4 or 5 race, aren't we? So you don't have to win every game. But I think a lot of them games we've got coming up are a lot harder on paper. And I think we need to start getting 3 points on the board whenever we can. The Champions League's going to start coming up. The FA Cup's going to start coming up. As we've already mentioned, the squad isn't the best. So I think get the points on the board now while you've got them. I still think that Forest are going to be tired because of the squad and the lineup they've put against Fenerbahce. So I think we need to capitalise on that, get the 3 points and get out.
I think it's the first 60 minutes then. So I think both sides might be tired, and whoever wins the first 60 minutes then can maybe see the game out, like I referred to earlier, Curtis Jones and so on, keeping hold of the ball. If I said to you now, you can only have 4 points out of the next 2 games, i.e. Nottingham Forest away, West Ham home, is that good enough?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so, yeah.
So then therefore, it might not be a must-win. A draw might be sufficient. Personally, I think it would be nice to go and win there because, like you said, games are running out. In a normal season, going away to Forest and getting a draw isn't the worst result, but I sort of just want to win football matches now, do you? What score do you go for?
Very optimistic piece, so I'm going 4-1 to Liverpool.
4-1? Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I'm going to go 2-0 the Reds. Might be more optimistic than you because I'm saying that we're going to keep a clean sheet. So there we have it. Let me know what your score predictions are in the comments. Let us know what you think of the show. If you want to influence the show, get on Patreon. That will be live later today. We are on all the other channels. We need YouTube subscribers, so make sure you're subscribing, please. Tell your mates because this is going to be sticking around for a while now. We've got a couple of shows per week. We will be back Monday. We'll have a little look at the Forest game and anything else that has happened in the football world that's relevant to Liverpool Football Club. Up the mighty Reds, and let's hope we get 3 points.